Welcome to Marathon, a amazing game by Bungie. I'm so excited about it, and today we're going to be diving into over 100 tips, tricks, and key information that you probably don't know. Even if you're a hardcore player, I have been taking in all the key information and giving this to you guys. It's a lot of things to go over, so we're going to get started right away. And I want to say, if you're a newcomer and don't know what this game is about, I'm going to cover that in the beginning. And then as we go, we'll progressively give you advanced information, tips, and key things for the game. All right. First and first, before we talk about the game, I just want to talk about the studio. Bungie has been around for 30 plus years. Okay. They made a game called Marathon. It had 3 different games of that. And it basically was super interesting. They offered the players to go into a universe where humans colonized Mars, and they used ships to get there. They had a specific ship to bring supplies and help colonize called the Marathon. That ship was actually put inside a small moon. They hollowed the moon out and then they used it. But Mars was in poverty and war and all this stuff started happening. And that's where the original games took place. And that universe is what we're going into. But this is a whole different game, and this is an extraction shooter, not a story-based or a regular multiplayer. And so we're going to get into that part, and we'll go into the lore a little deeper later. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of what to get into with Bungie. Okay, so Bungie created this team-based extraction shooter. It is a 3-on-3, but you can solo queue or duels. You're still going to have to face 3-on-3 in the game, so it's going to be very interesting. This is coming out on September 23rd on all platforms, PC, Xbox, and PlayStation next-gen consoles. This is not a free-to-play. It's not going to be full price, but they haven't put out the numbers on what it's going to be. It's very interesting that they're doing this. I would prefer, an extraction shooter is not the most popular genre, but I believe that Bungie's confidence in their quality will make it worth it. And we'll find out, right, when the time comes. When the game does launch, it's going to have 3 maps and 6 runner classes, okay? And that's at launch, and plus they'll have more as they go forward. And their plans for the future is to have new maps, weapons, characters. They have ranked and they have endgame challenges, seasonal storytelling, secrets to discover, community events, all in season 1, plus more coming along the way. This is kind of the core of the game, and there's a lot of stuff to get into within all that. We're going to talk about the classes, a little bit about the maps, and then talk about all the different features that are going to be implemented in this game that can make it or break it. But I definitely like a lot of what they talked about and that they're discussing when it comes to the game. The game is a PvP at heart with 18 players on one map and then 15 on another. And they're all going to be going in, trying to get loot, trying to complete contracts and missions for different factions. There's a lot of different elements that we're going to dive into on how the game works. But I wanted to point out that it is also PvE. So at the same time, there's going to be a bunch of AI enemies. You're seeing the robots, you're seeing aliens, all types of things in these planets that you will have to be facing. And it makes it super interesting to kind of have a dynamic where you're just wiping out a mini boss, and then a player team will come and get you and start some drama. So super interesting and exciting thing to kind of think about and feel as we go forward. But I did want to kind of point out another thing about the things that I'm seeing with the gameplay. The goal is to keep it extraction shooter focused, and the loop is you're preparing by picking out a loadout. If you don't have a loadout, they have these cool feature with the factions, which I'm gonna talk about a little later, which is called sponsored loadouts. They'll basically give you a loadout. If you can complete their mission, they'll hook you up. And it's a good way to go, because if you run out of money and you don't have no way to buy items, we'll do that. So we're going to get into some of that conversation as well. But I did want to talk about the runners to start off with and help you understand the universe a little. So this is an advanced future, right? So they created an ability for you to transfer your conscious into these cybernetic beings. So all these characters you're seeing that you're playing as, or that you fight against, the characters are people who transferred their consciousness, and you can continuously do that. And once you upload it, you'll have it forever, and you're able to download it onto these runners. So it's a super interesting mechanic and system. Basically, the reason why you're capable of living and dying and continuously coming back is because of that. Now, you are a mercenary and you're out there trying to work with the factions, discover what's happening in the world. Everybody has their own motives story-wise, but also as a player, you know, you want to get in and get the best you can, but you want them to take advantage of that. And each of these runners, aka classes, are very different, but in the base, from what they've said, is that the core of them will remain the same. There isn't a runner who has extremely better vitality. So your health is always going to have 4 shields and 1 health bar. And people are not going to have some tanky, you know, unkillable build. Of course, they can put on perks, abilities to help enhance themselves in different ways. But the core essence of the game is meant to be balanced, focused on providing that type of experience. So just know that. And that's where we start off introducing you to the factions. The runners. And here we go. We're going to talk about 4 runners that we got all the information for that we need. And then the other 2 still haven't been revealed fully, so we're waiting for launch on that. But these are going to be in the alpha for April. If you're watching this later, yes. So you got Locus, Blackbird, Glitch, and Void. Okay, these are the different classes. People call them heroes. I call them classes because they're certainly unique. Now you got Void. Remember, you're able to upgrade these characters and do a lot of things. I'm going to showcase that a little later and explain in detail. But we're going to look at Void, and we want to look at his specific abilities and discuss them thoroughly here. As you can see, he has smoke screen. Throw a smoke disc and basically create a smoke line in front of you. And then it also lets you go invisible. Okay, and it goes active camo. You're capable of creating a camo, shroud you completely invisible, which is amazing. Remember, if you do anything like take damage, shoot enemies, use an ability, your invisibility will be disturbed. But that is a cool feature that I absolutely love. Then we have the shadow dive. And it basically makes it so that while airborne, you're able to slam a smoke disc into the ground, deploying the smoke field. Then last but not least, your shield automatically activates the field of smoke, making you invisible every time you go into the smoke field. That's kind of his combination. Remember, every single class has 2 abilities and 2 traits that make them very different, very unique and special. We're going to talk about Blackbird here. Blackbird, I absolutely love everything I heard about him. A Recon style player, and you know, more support information and counter abilities and things like that. So let's just talk about some of his abilities. It says Echo Pulse. You're able to have advanced detection system, unleashing a series of sonar pulse, revealing nearby hostiles, which is awesome. And then he has a drone. When you deploy this drone, it tracks down nearby enemies and also explodes, overheating any target caught in the blast, which is such a cool thing. If you guys don't know what overheating is, think about when you have a machine that you're overusing, it overheats. Well, you're running, your abilities and different things like that are affected with overheating. We'll get into that a little later, but yeah. Then it has interrogation. When pinged by a hostile runner, you automatically receive a warning in your shell's HUD, which is very cool. Performing a finisher on a runner pings their crew, which is another great feature. This is going to be a clutch character. And then the last trait is Stalker Protolog. Says after breaking a combatant's shield, they leave behind a lingering holographic trail for a short time. So very interesting. You're still able to track them and do things that are going to be useful and helpful. Now we're going to get into glitch. And again, this is super key information. If you're going to be playing this game, you want to know what the classes are. I want to talk about how you can change them in the long run, guys. All right. So let's look at glitch. Amplify. Overcharge your movement. All right. Making you very fast. You're not going to overheat as much. Increase movement speed and weapon dexterity. So this is a very key thing. You want to be agile. You want to be running around. This class is super interesting for me. It's the in and out type of class with agility. And it has Disturber. Transform your arm into a cannon and fire a highly powered projectile to cause damage and push enemies away. This basically blows people away. It's a very cool ability. And then the two traits, you got Microjets, basically letting you perform an extra jump, which is super cool. Then there's the Power Slide. Grants a supercharged slide that generates additional heat. So this is another class if you want to play that style. And then last but not least, I call him Loc. Locus is definitely cool. He has the search and destroy ability. Basically a mounted missile that can shoot homing missiles, immobilize and put damage to whoever gets hit with it. Then you have the Riot Barricade, basically an energy barricade. This is basically, you've seen it in these trailers where he's able to just hold off enemies and stuff like that. It's a very cool feature and I'm interested to see how the players use it. And then there's thrusters. Thrusters, when you're airborne, you can basically burst left or right. It's a pretty cool ability in my opinion. And there's tactical sprint. Double press sprint to move faster at the cost of overheating. So yeah, this is one of those guys that can still get it going, running and gunning and things like that. And I want to take a moment to talk about the loadouts and things like that. All right, on the right over here, you're looking at the actual loadouts, guys. This is your weapon. It gets 4 attachments for each weapon. And then on the bottom, if you look carefully where it says equipment, you're capable of putting on anything here, and then a shield here. These will be unique, whatever grenade you like, whatever type of shield. There's different versions. And then the core is very clutch. All right, there's implants and there's core, and I talked about this on my live stream, kind of explaining to people that the implants are stat buffers and then the core is more gameplay buffers, so you're capable of putting on whatever you want. And then of course the backpacks, there's different kinds of backpacks. You can see right here, this is one, but there's plenty of different backpacks in this game that you can get into and see for yourself and figure out what you want to do as you go. I'm super excited about it. We're gonna continue here and I want to try to share some very cool stuff. We're gonna watch some gameplay and I'm gonna drop a lot more information for you guys about this stuff and get into it heavily. We're gonna randomize a lot of this topic and discussion, but I did want to help you kind of get a picture of what the game is offering. And so when you start the match, this is how it would look. It's gonna let you pick a character. Of course, we just went through all of their abilities, but this is how you'll begin the match, deciding which character you want to be and saying, hey, you know, I really like this or that character. I'm going to go with Glitch. She has very cool abilities for me. Then you're going to go into your loadout, which you're seeing here. In here, we talked about all of this. There's so many details to get into as far as the ways you can play this and the different variety that there is. You know, there's backpacks that can give you invisibility. There's backpacks that can do all types of insane things that people probably don't know yet. And, you know, auto reload, you're able to use items faster, just with a change of a backpack. And so each of these slots that you're seeing on the character is gonna be important because you're gonna upgrade yourself to the max and have a really good time as you go forward. But yeah, that's just the general consensus of what you're capable of doing and going from there as you go. And we want to talk about the map. The way it works is before we talk about the map, actually, I should talk about it. The factions, you can pick a faction to sponsor you, which will give you a free loadout, but you have to do some missions for them and things like that in these games. In this map, there's going to be the main area where you're going to be sent right away that you should intercept. And then there's going to be incursions and high level targets and so much more that will pop up throughout your play. And you can discover even more things like hidden keys and hidden areas that you're going to be able to unlock as you go. And then your mission is going to continue, but you can do these things, get the XP, get the rewards guaranteed, even if you die. This is a great feature, in my opinion. For extraction shooters, sometimes you feel like you lost everything and you played for no reason. But in this game, they allow you to do things, accomplish stuff. For example, let's say you're ranking up your faction rep, or you're basically unlocking certain things by completing these certain missions and, you know, getting your character leveled up as you go along. As you can see, there's a lot of AI that are going to be protecting these things. You're not going to just magically go in there and somehow get everything. So I do want to talk about a lot of features that there are confirmed in the game. Reconnect feature. So if you disconnect, you're able to get back in there. Crossplay and cross save. Very cool stuff, in my opinion. There's going to be cosmetics for weapons and the runners. The XP for these factions are very key. Like I said, you're doing these missions and you're going to get the reward even if you die and don't extract. All right. There is things like players unlocking maps. I'm not sure what that is yet. The devs talked about it briefly, but they didn't explain it. There's public events that are going to be happening in the game as well. There's team loot. There's supposedly the purple and blue and gold. Again, this might change when the game fully releases, but purple and gold will allow you that if you extract, even if your two teammates die and you're the only one that extracts, you're capable of rewarding them with whatever gold tier item that was a team shared one, as well as XP. So your team can end up getting something if you finish and get out of there. So it is possible. It's not that easy, but it's possible. And another quick mechanic is while you're putting buffs on yourselves, you can actually nerf something else. So they have like a balanced system, and we got to see this in first to fully understand it. But basically, you're capable of putting on a buff for one thing that might lower something else. And I don't know how I feel about that. That can be a great thing or a bad thing. The factions, you want to invest in them. And basically, the more you do with them, the higher tier items you unlock, which makes it easier for you the next time you go on a run, you want to buy something specific, you don't have to start over. You're going to have them buffed up as much as possible. I'm going to be doing a lot of factions when I first start playing the game. I'm just going to max them all out as humanly possible, so you probably get really cool things from them and things like that. So super cool. You can run in these games with any classes together, so you can have 3 of the same classes or 2 of the same and a new one, all of that stuff. It's a very cool system that's exciting to kind of get into. And then, you know, there's a self-repair, but it isn't like these other games where like you automatically do it in 10 to 30 seconds. They said it's going to take a couple minutes. If you're not active and not getting shot at, you can heal back up, regenerate health, but it's not going to happen automatically. And speaking about regen, there is a self-revive, but you have to find it or buy it. And we'll see how that goes. How abundant are there? People are going to farm for them like myself. Super interesting. And armor, you start off with 1 tick, and then you can get up, as you can see on the footage that you're watching, the person has 3 at the moment, and you can get up to 4 depending on the armor that you find. It has to be something good out there, high tier armor to give you 4 armors, but everybody has same type of armor. You can't magically get extra armor in this game, so that's a cool thing. Another fun fact is that your weapons do not have crazier extra buffs from the attachments. I actually like this. All right, putting on attachments, you know, if I get in there and I'm playing with a default weapon, but I'm better than you, and we both shoot each other, I should be able to win that fight because I have probably headshot aim and you don't, and you're shooting me in the body. If you put on an attachment, you shouldn't automatically have higher damage and hit like a truck. So they're making it so that every weapon has base damage. The attachments will not add weapon damage. They'll just add things like farther range and other effects that are good for you. You want to run objectives. There's going to be mini puzzles. There's going to be tunnels and then ship drops that happen throughout the game. There's going to be hot zones where you go in and you're going to find the best loot in the game. There's things called incursions. They're small, random mini bosses that drop during the match and you're able to get them. The keys, they're locked boxes and locked rooms stacked with high tier items in them, and you definitely want that if you're going to play. There's a thing called final extract. Okay, this is a key feature, and basically if you're wait until the timer runs out, there's a 25-minute timer to start the match. If you wait until the timer runs out, all extraction zones are going to be closed, and there's only going to be one for all the remaining players that are left. This is cool because that just makes it so that we're going to end up battling and having interesting end games if we wait for the timer to finish. Personally, I'm probably not going to do that a lot, but every once in a while for a little fun, sure. There's permadeath when it comes to loot, okay? Anything you bring in can be lost. So anytime you're in there, if you brought something new in, or if you found something and go bring it in later, it's automatically going to be lost if you die. There are the upgrades that are permanent, but those are specific things and they haven't revealed all of those details just yet. There's anomalies that happen, like the map we've seen in some of the areas that it was floating, certain areas were floating, and we don't have an explanation. Story-wise, we know that happened in the original games. That was kind of like a thing that was happening in the worlds. Remember, this is a future alienated area, but we don't know. We don't know just yet what it's going to offer and how that's going to work. I was thinking about this because this is a cool thing that one of the developers talked about. You might run out of resources as far as currency. You can go in the game and just go on a currency run and just find valuable items and then extract yourself out of there so that you can have more money. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of that, just farming up some currency. And there's a bunch of factions and contracts systems for you as well to make it interesting. And they're going to be paying you. They're going to send you on missions. Go do this. Go download this file. Go upload this. Go scan this area. Go take out this target. There's a long list of what these missions will be at the end. But if you do them, you'll get rewarded, as I said before, even if you die during the mission and don't extract, as long as you can complete the mission that they sent you on. But this will allow you to upgrade a lot of different things and make you super strong. They have black markets where you can equip a bunch of stuff and do very cool things. So it's super interesting. They have things like guns that will slow you down, will stop you from sprinting, put status effects on you, immobilize you, overheat you, all of that stuff. Very cool. They have dynamic weather. They have these tunnel areas where they want to kind of like funnel players in certain maps. And then they have areas where you can see there's enemies all around, some sniper enemies, some big tanky ones, a little bit of everything while you're fighting all these players and things like that. The loot that you could find is going to be implants, which, as I talked about before, just like cores, they're going to buff you up big time. Those are the two main ways. Buff yourself. Equipment like grenades, consumables for you to temporarily buff yourself up while you're in a match. There's book bags, which there's a variety of them that I talked about. The attachments for the weapons, materials and keys, so much more that are going to help you tremendously. You can definitely build craft, and this is what I said, why I said these characters are not heroes. because I don't remember a lot of heroes that gave you so much customization. I feel like the customization in this game with the implants is going to be key. And then of course your core will give you even more buffs. So you're capable of using all of that, even your shields and your book bag. You're going to create a playstyle that's unique. We can all go in with the same class, but play totally different. And that's something that I'm interested in. Very, very interested in. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the gold stuff is the exotic stuff in the game, is what the developers were saying. And that is very fun and interesting. And it's going to, you know, keep me excited and engaged when the time comes to jump in. And the one thing that I'm questioning, and we're not going to get too deep into because I'll be here all day, guys, but the wiping per season. They said 3 seasons will possibly be 3 months. And then 3 months, you wipe everything, and it's like, damn, was it worth playing this much? I don't know. So that's my feeling, personal feeling, but I don't want to get too deep into it. They said that those contracts I talked about are narrative, story driven as well. They'll help kind of introduce you to the universe and the factions and the AI. You want to prioritize that, level it up so that you can expand your book bag, expand your items and things like that. You can only have one contract at a time, which is kind of not cool with me. I prefer to have them all. Maybe I'm a little greedy there, but that's just how I feel. There's a revive system, as you see. You can easily revive your teammates at all times, even if they get fully wiped. As long as one of you guys are still alive, you can go back and revive them. And that's super interesting. And I want to take a moment to pause and show you this stuff in the background that we just saw in this area here is what I'm talking about, where this is the anomaly that are happening in the world as well. So super interesting. Just something to point out and discuss about how this game works. So yeah, so you're going to get into choose a mission, buy your loadout, perks, abilities, gear, drop into the server, hunt for loot, complete missions, explore, find some secrets, extract, get the XP and updates, and then repeat. There's an oxygen system, and you've probably been seeing it here. It's the timer, where once that oxygen runs out, your health will start dropping and you have to make it out on time. Super interesting. If you do get shot, for example, like in the stomach, some of your oxygen will deplete faster. And so that is super interesting. And then there's other times where you can get concussed and it will make you blurry periodically, which is super interesting. There's a lot of cool abilities, and we're not going to go down every single one. You're watching them as I do this deep dive here and discuss a lot of what's happening. Yeah, that's kind of the core essence of what I've seen or hear about this game when it comes to key information. And this is pretty much a full rundown on every single thing that I could possibly tell you. There's way more, and things like contextual pings where you can ping an enemy or ping an item, things like that are going to help your teammates out so that you can maneuver and handle things properly and take care of things as you go along. Very, very cool. I love the fact that the game has customizations for the characters and the way they're going to be buffed. And there's a prestige system for the core that they haven't really got into what that means or how that's going to work. But they said prestige course, rare items that will push beyond what you already have or how far you can go with your build and your playstyle. So I'm curious about that. I mean, the end game stuff is the stuff that we don't know yet. They're introducing us the game. But remember, when I'm making this video, the game just came out and there's still so many details to uncover and to explore and to figure out, like, okay, how does this all work as you go, you know? But I like what I'm seeing, and I feel like it is a very cool world and systems that actually make a lot of sense for Bungie. Bungie's focus, and this is something that the devs were kind of like consistently talking about, is that they want to do something very different. Extraction shooter is a genre that they're focused on here. Of course, players like myself want a story mode, and I want other modes, and you know, there's always somebody that wants to say something. And not saying that we're wrong, guys. I just think that, you know, the artist is painting the picture, which is this extraction, which you're watching it happen right now as this finale happens. They're finally extracting, and that's the end of the mode. And that's how you finish the mode. And pretty damn cool, if you ask me. Now I want to get into just a little bit of the lore and the story. If you've been here this whole time, we appreciate you. Make sure you leave a like if this has been informative. So many details. I mean, I spent hours on this, guys. I still have way more details. I'm going to drop more videos with more information and structure it for you. But we want to get into the lore a little bit and discuss it, because I did briefly mention how it all worked. And so we're jumping into a universe that pre-existed, and they created a full 3 games. And Earth colonized Mars. They had advanced technology, ships capable of traveling for 300 years or hundreds of years. And basically people living and dying on the ship just to get to Mars and basically colonize it and create all the stuff that we see. There's these aliens, there's these creatures, there's so many unexplained anomalies that you're watching in this cinematic that they presented as an example of story stuff that's very interesting and top of the line in my personal opinion. And so I believe that they're going to be, you know, endless amounts of lore that they're going to be adding and then uncovering, just like we did with Destiny and even with the ARG. If you guys didn't get to see that, basically we uncovered a lot of different things. I was up all night helping out some people with this, and we ended up doing a good job presenting to the world how these ARGs work. And Destiny has been doing amazing stuff. We like these community elements, and in the game you're able to unlock, most likely, this is my prediction, the Marathon itself. The Marathon is the ship that you play on in the first game, and I believe we're going to be having a map that's going to be called the Marathon, and it's going to be the main map where we uncover secrets, story stuff. It's not going to be a raid like in Destiny, but it's going to be similar to that type of feel where you're unlocking puzzles and trying to figure things out. And it's going to be very cool for the community to come together and sort through all of that, right? There's no wrong answers on how this will work out, if it'll play out that way, but it would be interesting if they did do that to add more depth to this extraction shooter, even though I know this is supposed to be a PvP game. But as you can see, the game has a lot of personality, a lot of great characters, and ability to be creative and very different. When you see all this stuff, you're like, what is this? It's madness, it's abstract, but it actually makes a lot of sense in the lore and in the universe of transferring your consciousness into these cybernetic beings. And so hopefully you'd enjoyed all of this information and you're excited like I am. If you are, make sure we leave those likes and lock in. I have deeper dives in each of these topics on my channel. Make sure you check that out. All right. See y'all later. Peace.